All right, and we're live. It's meme time. We're just taking some time to talk about meme ideas and stuff. We were gone for a while, but now we're back. So let's talk about meme ideas and net neutrality and scumbag Comcast on meme time. All right, this is meme time episode 23. We're finally kicking things off again. We're joined by William, regular correspondent, and frequent commentator Nick Lehman. Or,
Yo,
uh, yeah, that.
one-time contributor.
Okay, so as I understand it, William wants to talk about the perfect government. There's the feed that always comes on, and I never remember to stop it before it starts. But I wanted to post, or I wanted to share my new favorite music video that I didn't realize existed until yesterday. So we'll see if that works. In the meantime, talk amongst yourself while I see if I can get that set up.
Yeah.
Like,
How about that? Yeah.
How do you add videos. There we go.
should probably have figured this out before.
Right, I should have done this before. New borderline creepy music video, but it's
Did he mute himself?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
is the video showing?
No,
Am I muted?
not anymore.
How do I share the video?
Dude, I don't know. This is like the second time I've ever used this.
Well, it's right here on my screen. Oh, push to talk. I guess I have to push to transfer it. Okay, well, anyway, set it up. It's the band Shudder to Think, which is one of my favorite bands. This album is I consider one of the best albums I've ever heard. And the song is So Into You, which is a cover by, what's the name of the band? Rhythm something something. I don't know. If you go to the actual video, there's people commenting that say what the video is. So anyways, I'm gonna share part of this music video because I think it's borderline creepy and awesome.
I was hoping it'd be blood on the dance floor, but guess it's all right.
Is the video coming up or not?
No.
Motherfucker. Well, how do I make the video show up?
Dude,
I don't know if this is gonna work for each of you.
Ah, damn it.
I only get like half of the things the other say.
Okay, let's see if that works.
There, now I can see it.
Alright, can you hear it though?
Yep. Nope.
Can you hear it?
Nope.
Motherfucker.
Looks pretty weird.
Now can you hear it?
Nope.
Oh.
Alright, never mind. Anyway, that's not gonna work. Anyways, anyone who actually watches this, go check out Shudder to Think So Into You. It's a good music video, it's borderline creepy, it's entertaining. It's got everything you can want in a music video.
How does Kel feel about this song?
Oh, I don't know. I've told him how much I love Shudder to Think before. I don't know if he's ever actually listened to the band. Or he's never shown any particular interest in them, but I don't really care. I think that they're one of my favorite bands of all time.
I'm just curious because he has strong opinions on most bands.
That's one of your favorite albums, Champ?
Yes, Pony Express Records. Shudder to Think Pony Express Records, one of my favorite albums of all time.
I can't say I've ever even listened to that band or even heard their name.
Well, I don't think that they're a very popular band. But I found them on Pitchfork Media, like, what's the year, 2014? Like 8 years ago, and thought that was one of the best albums I've ever heard.
Okay. It's fair enough.
It's very I don't know, it's like very 90s like indie rock sound, like Pavement type kind of jangle or angular guitars
I can
and
check it out.
distortion and shit.
I like Pavement.
Okay.
I'll
And
check it
they
out.
the guy's vocals are again kind of creepy, but really I really love his vocals. That's one of my favorite. That's one of the things I love the most about it is the vocals.
I'll look into it.
All right.
Yeah.
There's a couple music videos on YouTube. There's that one that I was talking about, So Into You, and I know they have what's the other one? X French T-shirt or something. I don't know. They have another song on there. They have
Yeah.
some videos on YouTube. So digging into the actual meat of the program that we were going to talk about, I guess we can start off with Bo Bergdahl since Nick, you and I were just talking about
Yeah.
that. We can fill William in on the topic.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of what I'm saying y'all are hearing, but I'm only hearing like a small portion of what y'all are saying.
Yeah, well, we'll see how it actually translates in the final recording.
I can hear everybody.
I don't. I think it's a problem with my connection.
Yeah, I can hear you, William, but yeah, like I said, your video feed is kind of blurry, so I'm guessing your connection there's something wrong with it.
I don't really know anything you said about Shudder to Think because I didn't hear anything that you said.
All right, well, I just talk to hear myself think, so it's not really that important anyways. Okay, so anyways, this Bo Bergdahl thing, this guy apparently deserted his comrades, quote unquote, deserted his comrades by
Allegedly.
by conservative pundits, and then I guess got captured by the Taliban.
Yeah.
Okay, and so Obama set up a trade with where he traded like what 5 people from Guantanamo to the Taliban in order to get back this soldier. And I think that's the gist of it, William.
Yeah.
All
So
I,
the-
the
Yeah.
only thing I heard you say was that he allegedly abandoned his unit.
Okay, and then Obama made a trade with Taliban people from Guantanamo to trade him back to the U.S.
How many people did?
5.
How many people did he trade for?
5.
5. Okay.
Uh,
I don't think this is gonna work.
all right. Well, you know, you can sit there quietly and try and comment when, or you know,
Observe
make
us.
hand gestures or something. So anyways, Nick, as I understand it, the conservatives are so up in arms about it because it's questionable as to whether Obama broke the law by not consulting with Congress. And it sounds like you know more about that than I do, so I'll let you.
Yeah, it's pretty up in the air whether he was whether. Yeah, it's pretty up in the air on whether he was allowed to act on his own and do this. There's a famous constitutional law case where Truman tries to nationalize the steel during the Korean War, and there's a famous test put out in that case that determines whether or not a president is allowed to act on his own. And basically, it's pretty unsettled whether or not he was in fact allowed to do this on his own. And I think there's a fairly strong case that can be made that as long as we are still quote unquote, engaged in some sort of there's still a conflict going on in Afghanistan, that he might have the power to act on his own and do some sort of hostage transfer without authorization from Congress. But there would have to be some sort of I think there's like the Hostage Claim Act or something that he could point to say that he had power to act on his own. But then again, I don't know for sure, and I think it's definitely something that could turn into a big legal battle, and whether he was allowed to act on his own and do this. So it'll be interesting to follow that.
Would
Hmm.
he be normally allowed to, for instance, and actively engaged in Afghanistan, but worse? Yes.
Did you catch that? It
Nope.
cut out.
Cut off William.
Yeah.
Did you not hear what I said?
I caught
Uh,
part of it.
Pieces.
Exchange, for instance, Taliban prisoners, if we weren't engaged in Afghanistan but were elsewhere in the world?
Yeah. Then I think if we were not engaged in some sort of if we weren't if the I think the word is if hostilities had ended in Afghanistan and he did this, then I definitely think that it would be pretty clear that he was in dereliction of his duties and he had to get authorization from Congress. If the hostilities had ceased, I think is the key terms to use. And I don't know. The tricky thing is going to be to see when have hostilities ceased. How do we define like a cessation of hostilities? I don't know.
Yeah. The issue that I have is regardless of whether there's precedent set in the past, I realize that we use precedents in this country, but I'm more interested in deferring to the Constitution than precedents in matters like this. So just because a president was able to get away with something in the past, I'm not a big fan of that being the sole reason that another president can do something in the future. That's my personal opinion. I realize that that's not the way it works in reality. But yeah. So I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, and I understand the kind of the imperatives of war, and being a president having to make decisions in the spur of the moment, and this was maybe an opportunity that came up, and there wouldn't have been time, to go through and get an act voted through Congress, which probably wouldn't have happened.
mm,
So I understand that, and like I said, I guess I don't care as much about the underlying like constitutionality of it because I don't really give a shit because we're gonna have to hand these guys over within the next year probably anyways. And I understand, from your take that, while it might not be a big deal with this specific issue, that allowing the president to take these actions on his own is just not good precedent to set, and I understand that. But I guess I don't really care because we're gonna have to give those people over anyways. So I just think it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Um, yeah. So.
I mean, and I understand what you're saying as well. Like that, that's the other side where I come to it from is like I agree with you in that I think it's bullshit that Obama keeps saying that he's going to close down Gitmo. That was what he ran on. It's Gitmo's still not closed, and that that's still open, and there are still people who have never been tried with anything, being held prisoner and being tortured, being when they go on hunger strikes, being forcibly fed through NG tubes and shit like that. So I agree with you in that regard. I think that yeah, we need. I know that there aren't, as far as I'm aware, there aren't any countries that want these people back, but they have to go somewhere eventually, and holding
Yeah.
people who haven't been tried with anything in prison is not okay. Shouldn't be okay anywhere in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I agree with you in that regard, and like I think that the trade should have been made. I just think that again, like yeah, maybe he needed to act in the spur of the moment, but I think there probably, some sort of consultation in some regard would have been a good thing. I'm guessing that conservatives would have used that as a way to like be against it and give him shit anyways, but he's
Yeah, I mean,
getting
if
shit.
he tried to go through Congress, it wouldn't have happened. There's no way in hell, if he tried to get an act passed through Congress or get approval, there's no way Congress would have let him do it. And I mean,
Yeah,
he probably knew that, and that's why he did it.
yeah,
So,
you're probably right. So I mean,
I
I
mean,
just I'm like I'm not a fan of Obama in general. So calling him on shit is something I don't have a problem with doing. But I think your arguments in this case are uh, probably more accurate and more fair than mine are. I'm probably just being too hard on him in this situation.
you and Kel do like being hard on Obama, and I like a lot of stuff about him, so I can be a little more fair. I call him on his shit too, but I understand. He's, you know, some of the stuff you got to deal with.
I mean, then the other issue, the thing that I'm really makes it really hard for me to get on board with conservatives about like the whole him deserting thing. I think is bullshit because when you're fighting wars of aggression overseas, and the soldiers are being put into positions where they are in a really horrible situation to begin with, and they have to be really careful about everything they do. But there's still people. There are people attacking them. They have to worry about like terrorist bombings and stuff like that. I mean, I realize that the reason they have to worry about that is because we're invading their country, but still they have to worry about that. They're human beings have to worry about that. Then that causes PTSD, and I don't blame a soldier for walking away from that kind of situation.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I don't, I have sympathy. I have total sympathy for him too. I'm just more arguing from the standpoint of like how, you know, other people that aren't fucking like reasonable human beings like us are gonna look at it. Because I completely agree with you. I have complete sympathy for the guy too. But, I also understand that he had a commitment to, serve his post and do whatever the fuck you have to do. Um, but, like I said, he's entitled to his day in court, his court martial.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
I hear
and
people saying, like, oh, we should have just left him. Fuck him. We should have just left him. And I think that's not a good route to go down because then you get into the situation of, what if in the future, do we want, like, military officers making the decision on, oh, we're just fuck him, we're going to leave him because I think he might have deserted. I think that's something that needs to be determined by a court.
yeah, he's a human being. If you want to court martial him, then that's one thing. But leaving a human being in a potentially, I don't know what situation he was actually in, but a potentially dangerous situation
Yeah.
is bullshit.
Yeah,
Period.
no, I mean, yeah, he's entitled to his day in
Or I
court.
guess you wanna I guess set the give the idea that I don't know why I don't again I only found out about this when y'all brought it up, so I don't know why he deserted. But do you all have like start building up an army of soldiers who don't ever kind of maybe take a moral stance or anything because that's against their orders because
Yeah, I
they're going to
want
get punished.
soldiers. I
They're going to
want.
get punished if they do.
Yeah, I agree. I want soldiers who are willing to think for themselves. I understand that the environment that they're bred in probably keeps them from speaking up a lot of the time. But if there's horrible things happening, I want soldiers who are willing to speak up against that.
That's true. Yeah.
It's a good point, William.
There was, yeah, that was. There's also a side issue too of like I guess his dad grew his hair and his beard out to kind of like show like some sort of solidarity and understand the environment he was in. And so you have a lot of people on the right too, like O'Reilly, like screaming about how like his dad's like a Muslim or looks like a Muslim and stuff. So you're getting a lot of like weird Islamophobia stuff too with it, which I just think is always really funny and interesting.
Well, I thought it was funny that I don't remember exactly what Alex Jones was talking about, but this was one of the crazier things that Alex Jones said as he was talking about how he thought that, well, I mean, it's entirely possible because of how big of a media issue it is, but like I said, I don't know anything about this other than
I think I might know where you're going with this, but keep going.
yeah, he was talking about how the guy was like a plant, I don't know, like a CIA plant or something because he spoke
Yeah.
perfect
Yeah.
Arabic. and stuff like that. And so yeah, I have no idea about that, but I thought that was, like I said, I like listening to Alex Jones because I like a little crazy with my news. So
Oh, I used to listen to him in Austin all the time too. I disagreed with like
Be
90% of what he said.
rational
He
and
was
based
doing
on
it.
fact.
so that was one of the more entertaining things I heard from Alex Jones. I think that's probably what caught my attention about
Yeah.
the Bo Bergdahl situation to
And I'll go
begin
on the
with.
record and say that I cannot disprove Alex Jones's assertion. Which is the beauty of most of Alex Jones's assertions is I cannot
Yeah.
disprove. So. It's cool though.
So the other big thing that I wanted to talk about was net neutrality, which I've spent more time reading about, so I could probably and listening to, so I could probably talk on a little bit better. And I was trying to explain to Nick right before we started kind of what the issue is, but basically, as I understand it, the FCC has done a pretty good job up to this point of making the internet a level playing field and requiring that ISP internet service providers provide content equally, regardless of where it's coming from. But there are scumbag companies like Comcast and Verizon who are monolithic corporations that want control of the internet service provision, and they want control of the content that's being seeded and everything. And when Netflix has become such a huge thing, a huge bandwidth monopolizer, and I think what I remember hearing is that Netflix uses up 30% of Comcast's bandwidth. So Comcast wants to basically have their cake and eat it too. They want their subscribers, people who are Comcast customers, to be paying for their bandwidth, paying for their internet service, and then on top of that, they want Netflix to pay them to provide them with a fast lane to make sure that their internet connection is ideal for streaming video. So they're just trying to double dip and get as much money as they can out of everyone. So I mean, the big picture thing is that Comcast is just a scummy company in general, and if you Google Comcast CEO, videos of Comcast CEO, he just says crazy shit all the time, and he probably doesn't need to be the CEO of such a big company.
That's bold. So basically, what would happen with this, I'm sure trying to understand it, is, you know, if they start charging like this, then basically the people with the most money are going to be the only ones that are able to, to keep up. And basically, the more money you have, the more speech and the more kind of your platform will be able to be kind of like pushed in a way, right?
Yeah, I mean, like the parallel, you kind of make a parallel. It's probably reaching, but like we were also talking about the Voting Rights Act. It's a thing where like the companies, like the states that were being targeted by the Voting Rights Act because they were being scummy and trying to keep people from voting. Like these companies, if they were given the latitude, they would preferentially give treatment to certain companies and provide bandwidth to certain companies over others, depending on how well they could pay for better internet service. And John Oliver made the analogy, which I thought was hilarious, was that it's not like if you give these companies and free reign to control the internet, it's not going to be like Usain Bolt, the Olympic runner, versus Usain Bolt like in a supercharged like motorcycle or something going super fast. It's going to be Usain Bolt versus Usain bolted to the floor, not able to move. So
Yeah.
they're not gonna improve speeds. They're gonna get money, and they're going to throttle speeds for people who aren't willing to pony up the cash.
So basically, you would have certain companies just wouldn't be able to keep up, and so that would just lead to this sort of the only people that can put their product out there are people with money, in a sense.
Yeah, I mean it's a monopoly scenario.
Limiting
Like,
access in a way, I guess. It's like access limitation.
yeah, it's a monopoly scenario. Like the Comcast and AT&T and T and some of these companies own the infrastructure. That's a problem.
So
Is
this
like,
this is really interesting to me because I'm going to be taking a antitrust class next semester, and I think this really is like there's probably going to be a bunch of antitrust law cases on this, you know.
yeah, I mean there
Um,
probably should be.
and no, but it's an interesting interplay because I know you're pretty libertarian, and there's a lot of libertarians who would say that the government should stay out of it. There shouldn't be laws that deal with any of this shit, and you should let the companies and everybody just kind of work it out, you know. And that's the libertarian view, is that you let these companies work it out and figure it out. Whoever has, that's the way it goes. That's the market, you know. The market's going to work itself out with it. You know, where I know, and I mean, I'm on the other side. I think that this should be regulated, and I think
Well,
antitrust laws are a good thing.
this is, I would say that this is different than, and I think you probably get more libertarians that wouldn't take that position, because the different thing about this, as Champ pointed out, is that they own the infrastructure for this, so there's
Right.
not really a way, and that, as far as from what I understand, them owning the infrastructure was largely something that they were like a power they were sort of given by the government in many ways, that they have basically the sole capability of laying down that infrastructure. So it's something where you can't reasonably expect a competitive market to open up for it. Uh,
Right.
it's like the same way, like if one phone company owned all the phone lines or all the
Oh
cell
no, yeah.
towers,
No, I no, I
there
totally
was
agree.
no way to make more reasonably. It wouldn't make sense for like even a libertarian to go, well, let other phone companies compete with them. They can't do that, and it's kind of the same way here. You can't reasonably expect. Yeah, you can have maybe a company like Google start laying down Google Fiber, but making that infrastructure is incredibly expensive and time consuming. You can't expect it to happen in a reasonable time frame. It's not like just opening up a shop across the street and having lower prices or something like that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
I was going to say that going along with your point, yeah, the first time that I ever heard about net neutrality was probably a couple of years ago, and it was Ron Paul and kind of like Campaign for Liberty type people talking about how they were on the other, like you said, they were on the other side of the fence, and they wanted to open it up so that companies, the internet could have complete internet companies could have complete free reign and choose how they provided service and all that stuff, which is something that I am not in agreement with. Like, I think that the way that things are set up now is because of corporate government collusion. So I think that
Yeah.
because of the way things set up now is a, you know, as a libertarian, is a problem that I have with the government, and is that they give preferential treatment to certain companies over other. But because that's the way things are, unfortunately, I'm willing to allow the federal government to be in charge of making sure that these companies who don't already have an advantage, a significant advantage, and that they own a good portion of the infrastructure, being allowed to control the way that content's delivered.
I want this. I'm putting this day on the record here with Champ advocating federal government regulation and stuff. I like it.
There are certain things that I
I
think the
like it.
federal government should do.
Hey, we're on the record here with this one. 'Cause like I said, I mean, like the University of Chicago, like the Chicago School of Economics, and the hardline libertarians they hate antitrust laws. You know, they don't want any regulation of anything like this. And I just think in terms of protecting consumers and kind of leveling the playing field, we need stuff like this. We need laws that prevent monopolies and stuff like this. I think it benefits more people. In the long run.
I mean, the one thing I will say that is really nice is that in the advent of this, there are companies who are coming out who are trying to, there are startups that probably can't compete in any significant degree. But like I just ordered this Freedom Pop thing, which is just like a little Wi-Fi like a little Wi-Fi box that's about like this big. That's supposed to be able to give you 4G internet access anywhere, and like 4G internet access is not gonna let me do everything I want to on the internet, like play games and stuff. But like if I want internet access and I'm not hardwired to like Time Warner Cable, which Time Warner Cable is supposedly merging with Comcast, which I'm not happy about at all. And if
that should be a big antitrust case too.
If that goes through, I'm gonna switch from Time Warner Cable in a split second. Like I'm not gonna stick with Time Warner Cable.
I'm not gonna tell you who my cable service provider is.
Who else? Comcast or AT&T, I guess.
The only one is Comcast. I have no choice.
AT&T. AT&T is another shitty provider, but they're the alternate provider. Like AT&T is taking advantage of the Comcast Time Warner Cable merger, and they're like, I get my mail spammed with AT&T advertisements because of the Time Warner Cable Comcast merger.
Wow. Yeah.
Which, I mean, if they're the only other option I have, I'll switch to AT&T. I'm not happy about that because neither Time Warner Cable or AT&T have been the best service providers. I've had both of them in the past.
Yeah.
Neither of them have been phenomenal, but until something else opens up.
Here it's either Dish or Comcast. That's like your only choice.
Yeah, and I really don't want to deal with a satellite dish. That sounds until like Google Fiber or something becomes available. Unfortunately, it's kind of for hardwired options. The main options are Time Warner Cable or AT&T right now.
Yeah, it's funny because I just switched I had it for a week and it's already fucking broken and they can't come out for like a week and a half to fix it. And I'm fucking pissed. I'm using my
well, I mean, the thing is,
go on.
Oh, the thing is, between AT&T and Time Warner Cable, I think Time Warner Cable has had the better service overall, but with the June 5th Fight the Future Reset the Net thing that they were, which is something that people should check out because they have like a power pack where they help you set up ways to encrypt your internet and hopefully kind of improve your internet secrecy, I guess, whatever. But with the Reset the Net, Fight the Future thing, one of the big things they're pushing is having people set up Tor relays or the Onion routing network, which is like associated with the Silk Road, all that stuff. But anyways, so I was setting up an Onion routing Tor network, relay network, and it started, like my internet started going crazy. And so like I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but it's working now. But if that becomes an issue in the future, I'm going to call it and switch Time Warner Cable if they're going to have a problem with me hosting a Tor relay.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. I got to get going here soon, in a minute or two.
All right. Well, I think we've kind of exhausted our topics.
Can I throw out a topic maybe for next week or something we can talk about next week?
Absolutely.
It's one of my big interests here, and I'm studying like law on like oil and gas stuff. Obama just put out the new EPA rules for limiting the coal plants and the coal outputs by a third. It's going to have a huge impact on energy and renewable resources and just the energy business in general in terms of switching from coal to gas power. And it sounds kind of boring, but I think it's super important. It's going to have a really big impact.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that.
What was it like limiting it a third over the next after like 16 years, 12, 16 years, something like that?
Yeah, we want to cut it by a third by 2030, and now gas is going to be even bigger, and that's what he calls like the transitional fuel, transitioning to renewables. And it's, I don't know, it's just interesting to talk about kind of like the impacts it's going to have on, um, you know, energy law and the, what we're using as fuel.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a great topic.
Cool.
All right. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up for today. It was meme times. They shared meme times. They talked about meme times, but they